Welcome to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vinosky. Industry has a million cool stories, and Jim talks to the movers and shakers who are making them happen. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Manufacturing Talks. I'm Jim Vinosky, and we're sponsored by Cosgrove Content, the wordsmiths for industry. If you are in manufacturing and you need some help on getting writing done in a way people can understand, look us up, cosgrovecontent.com. And I'm very happy to introduce Jason Ray. He's co-founder and CEO of Paperless Parts. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Jim. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Glad to have you on here. Like so many of the people I talk to, I got to know through a Forbes article.
Yeah, it's been a couple years.
I was just gonna say, unlike a lot, I usually talk to people now fairly soon after I write about them. But yeah, for you, it was 3 years ago. I had to look it up.
We kind of put our head in the sand and we were like, we got to go focus on the product and really make this thing work. So it's nice to be coming back up for air.
That's very cool. And so why don't we start, and you can just give kind of a top line on what it is Paperless Parts do to start with. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Paperless Parts is a cloud-based platform, and we focus on estimating and quoting for job shop, contract manufacturers, fabricators. And really, I think the best way to explain this is a lot of our customers and a lot of American manufacturers specifically, they're running their front offices using brute force. So they're doing pen and paper, filing cabinets, they're printing things out, and they haven't adopted a lot of the modern software solutions that a lot of other businesses have adopted. We use Salesforce and SalesLoft and you name it, DocuSign. We've got so many different tools that we use to streamline the administrative functions in our business. And a lot of these companies, they're leveraging on-premise ERP that try to go end to end, and they're really starting to struggle. And they've got this key bottleneck in quoting, because quoting is risky. It is, and I think there's some really interesting dynamics that derive from that. But I think one of the areas that I'd love to start with is just by saying our core underlying insight. The reason Paperless Parts exists, the reason we built the technology the way we have, is because we believe that the information inside of CAD, so whether that's a 3D CAD model, whether that's a PDF, but all of the information inside of those CAD models, that drives every decision downstream from the suppliers.
Yeah.
So where am I going to make it? What machine is it going to go on? What certifications do they need? What's the raw material that we're making it out of? What's the BOM? What is that hole and the tolerance? And am I going to bore it? Am I going to ream it? All of those decisions downstream live in some kind of information in the CAD. So what we do as a company is we interact with CAD, whether that's a 3D model or a 2D PDF. And we really take 3 steps. So we extract, so we lift as much information as we possibly can. Then we take that information, it's just data points when we take it out, and we turn it into information by defining it. This is a hole, this is a pocket, this is a bend, this is a piece of hardware. So we define it. And then we take all those definitions and we make it so that you can organize that to drive automation in your business. And that is our SaaS platform. And that is at the core of both our quoting engine and our automation in the front office. So how we can derive workflows and rules and make it much more efficient for a team to get their jobs done.
Cool. Yeah. And automation, I'm glad you mentioned that word, because that's a key part of what I want to talk about. Before I go there, though, tell me about yourself. Tell me how you got to that point of launching a company to do everything you just talked about.
Oh, I like feeling around in the dark. Honestly, I felt the problem. So I was a Navy supply and logistics officer.
Oh, wow.
And the vast majority of supply officers, we get to benefit when we're forward deployed. We benefit from a fairly robust Navy supply corps system. the Navy stock system, and we work with DLA, and we type in national stock numbers and we place orders and the parts show up, and we maintain a storeroom, and it's not that complex. But
Yeah. Actually similar to what goes on in the manufacturing world too, right?
Exactly. I was fortunate enough, though, to pick a minesweeper. Now, a minesweeper is a wooden ship, 235 feet. They're stationed, at least we were, in the Persian Gulf, right in Bahrain. And when I got to those ships, the supply system had really turned off. So what the military does is when a platform gets close to its end of life, they take one big order right at the end, and they try to fill the storerooms. They say, this is going to be good for the next 5 years. Go ahead and turn off all the other contracts. So I got there about 4 years into that 5-year window. And that was right when they made the decision to go try to turn the supply system back on.
Oh, geez.
It's a whole different level of business.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out, where can we go source components? Who do we work with? How do we turn contracts back on? Really forced me to feel the pain.
Yep.
And so I'm sitting here in the Persian Gulf, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, why?
Yep.
We have such a robust industrial base. Like, we pride ourselves on American manufacturing, and yet
Yep.
here I am forward deployed and I can't buy the things I need.
Wow.
Like, it didn't align. So I assumed it was a Navy problem. That was my first step. And then from there, I went into Navy contracting. And what I learned is that Navy contracting is actually pretty good. Like, they figured this out. There's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of steps to do with the federal acquisition and the regulations and the DFARS. So there's a lot there and a lot of paperwork, but the process is really robust, and the people running it they know how to put things on contract. So
Yeah.
kind of started to drift more into the manufacturing space. And when I started to look at it, I really identified this estimating as a key problem. And it really comes back to the simple fact that it's time consuming, it's risky, and there's an opportunity cost, because generally it's a bottleneck. So if I'm an owner and I keep all the estimating close to the vest, I'm only going to quote the companies that I know and that I have time to quote. If I see some random request come in, I don't have terms set up with them, I haven't done a credit check, I've never done work with them before, I may not prioritize that. And we know from doing surveys that if you don't respond to a quote in under 24 hours, there's a really good chance you're not going to win that work. So what we initially said with Paperless Parts is, let's go build a system that kind of takes the friction out of this. And we thought maybe a combination of Xometry and Fictive and kayak.com for booking plane tickets. We thought that would be the solution. And the core model was, well, if we de-friction the estimating and we de-risk the contracting aspect of it, we'll make it so that more business flows to the shops. What we learned in a year is actually the shops were uploading more parts to our marketplace than the buyers. And we said, what's going on here? This is weird. We expected buyers upload CAD, we automatically quote it, and the shops take the orders. So why are the shops loading more parts? And it turned out what the shops were doing, we had about 40 shops that were on the supply side of our buyer-supplier marketplace. They were uploading orders of magnitude more parts. We said, well, what is happening? So we got on the phone with them. We said, what are you guys doing? Why are you outsourcing? Is it like, are you using us as a pressure relief valve? Like, what's happening? Turns out they were going in, uploading the parts, finding their pricing, so filtering by their logo, copying and pasting the price we would generate into a Word document, in some cases turning that into a PDF and then sending it out to the customer. I was like, guys, what are you doing? Well, you got an ERP system that does quoting. You've got, like, what are you doing? And they said, well, we realized we really like your pricing engine. The marketplace is kind of dog shit, but the pricing engine is great. So we do that. That's how we do it. And we said, so you guys want a quoting solution? This was like 8 months into building the business. We'd sank a whole bunch of money into building this gross marketplace. And they said, yeah, like, if you built a quoting solution, that would be awesome. But the marketplace, you can leave that behind.
Wow.
So we called it quits. We turned off the marketplace. We focused on about a half a dozen customers. They were our first customers. We paved the road with them all through 2018. right towards the end of 2019 is when we really started to feel it. And that's probably right when we had our first conversation.
Yep. Okay.
And it really started to go in 2020. And I think we benefited from COVID because I think the world in general was reminded of just how critically important manufacturing and local manufacturing
Oh
is.
yeah.
And at the exact same time, manufacturers were reminded that it's time to go digital.
Yeah.
The importance of technology to be able to support an aging workforce. Our customers that were using paperless parts didn't miss a beat. They're
Yeah.
65, 75-year-old estimators. They were quoting from home. They didn't have to worry about coming in. They didn't have to worry about getting COVID. The businesses never slowed down. They
Yep.
just kept plowing through. And so we took off all through 2020, all through 2021, and the growth has just been exponential since then.
Awesome. Now you had a great segue there though, talking about the automation again. And I really want to hit on that because, out here in industry, we hear so much now about automation, but it's all so much focused on the factory automation, the floor.
Yeah.
And that's all great. I mean, kind of made my career in that kind of thing. But, you know, someone like you has this whole other piece of automation that I think a lot of people are still missing. And you're right, there were those that were ahead of the game and they did so well because we went off to where everything had to be computerized and at a distance. And so those who were automated with their business processes prospered. And so talk a little more about that, what you're seeing now as far as the uptake on people automating those business processes.
It's awesome. And you know what's incredible? People are still coming to us thinking pricing engine. That's it. So they come in and they're like, this is a pricing engine, and that's like they're myopically focused on that. And we have a great pricing engine. We're not a runtime calculator. We can derive runtimes. We get pretty close. There's a lot that we can do to really dial it in, but it's automation with a human touch. When I first talk to a shop and they're going into onboarding, they're so excited about the pricing engine. When I talk to them and they're coming out of onboarding, 6-8 weeks later, they're like, oh my God, I'm not going to type an email ever again. And I'm like, yeah, welcome to like real automation. So I think the message that I always try to leave people with is have you ever, here's a good analogy. You ever had something that's been pain for a while? Like you got a joint, it just hurts. You kind of learn to live with it. And then at some point in your life that goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Like you figure out how to solve it, whatever it is. And then it's like, oh my God, like I'm breathing for the first time. It's amazing. I don't think people understand the level of manual analog process that they do because they've been doing it for 20 years.
Right.
So we sit down and we look at that and we say, okay, well, how many keystrokes do you hit a day before paperless parts? How many clicks? Like we were looking at one of our customers, and to send a quote, it was about 180 clicks of the mouse.
Yep.
With paperless, it was 16.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just like dramatic. But you wouldn't think of that as the reason to adopt a solution because you're just so used to it.
Right.
The same thing. A lot of our customers are sending tens of quotes a day. We have like close to 10,000 line items quoted a day through our system. So, I mean, it's pretty wild, the commerce that's happening right now. But all those emails are pre-drafted templates that you can set up and control, and you never have to worry about typing an email again. Right. You never have to worry that, I spelled something, I had an extra space. And what I think a lot of shop owners are coming to realize is your email, your quote that goes out, that is a digital representation of your shop. So you want to be this modern shop. You want your customers to think of you as a modern digital partner. The first impression that a shop gets of you is either your website or the way your quotes look.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And that's a great point. Another thing I would add is what you do isn't the sexy part of automation, right? You got the picture of the cute little dancing dog or the miles an hour industrial robot picking pieces and packing them. It certainly is great marketing, but it's what I tell people in a lot of cases. Look at where the dollars are flowing, and it may not be on your shop floor. It may be in the office.
I see a lot of people making big investments to increase throughput.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I try to coach all of our customers on is there are a lot of ways to make more money in a shop. There's a lot of ways to drive revenue. It doesn't necessarily mean making more parts. And that is a real paradigm shift. So one of the concepts that I talk to our shops about is you're not just costing. So a lot of shop owners, they're such good people, and they get in this mindset of they think they're being bad partners by making money. So all they do is they figure out a way to make the parts as cheaply as possible, and they do bottoms up costing. What's the metal cost me? What is it going to take me to run it on this machine? Oh, I've already paid off that machine, so I can make it cheaper for the customer, not thinking you're going to need to reinvest at some point.
Right. Yeah.
They're constantly competing against themselves, and they're competing against the world. From my perspective, you're selling more than just metal or plastic. You're selling a service, and a service has several different elements. It has an item, it has an item delivered when and where it needs to be delivered, and it has a lead time element to that. And that lead time is actually quite critical, especially in the market that we're in right now.
Right.
And a lot of shops are like, well, we can't expedite. We don't have the ability to do that. And so I always have this conversation with shop owners when we first get started. And I'll say, okay, so you don't expedite parts. You have a 10-week lead time. That's your lead time. And so I'll start off and I'll say, well, what if I paid you twice as much? Could you do it in 5 weeks? And they would say, no, I'm not going to, And I said, okay, well, what if I paid you 10 times as much? And they're like, well, oh, yeah, I'd figure out a way to get it done. And I'm like, so what you're telling me is you will expedite parts, but you're uncomfortable communicating how much money it would cost you to go back to your other customers. So I have customers today that will have 2 weeks. They'll put 2-week lead time at 10x the price. And if the buyer wants it, that customer will turn around and go give whoever gets displaced their parts for free.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You're still way over
right
on your margin.
Yeah.
And that seems counterintuitive to the way business is done, but you would never walk into a UPS store and say to the clerk, I want you to send this overnight at the price of ground. That's not the way the business works. They value time. It may travel on the same plane ground. It may travel on the same trucks, and it may get there in the same amount of time. But if you pay for ground, you're getting ground. If you pay for expedite, you're getting guaranteed expedite. And so I always try to help our customers understand all the different levers that they can pull to drive revenue. And it's not always just driving automation so you can make more parts.
Right.
I also see a lot of shop owners, and I get it. People are hard. We've grown tremendously. I mean, we have 140 people today. It's nuts. But the more people you have, the more management you have to apply, the more work you have to do to coach those people.
Sure.
So you look for automation. How do I put a robot here? A robot's less challenging to manage.
Yeah.
Part of it is, well, there are a lot of other ways to get value, but we shouldn't just try to automate out of being able to run a second shift. There are other strategies. We see a lot of our customers coming up with really unique ways to relieve that pressure in their business, without looking at only throughput as an option.
Mm-hmm. There's I counted like half a dozen just genius insights you just threw out. Maybe I'll put together your own video and sell it out there.
No, let's do it together. I know a publication that will pick up your articles. So.
Yeah, you're right though. There's so many other avenues to succeed as a business, and people get so single-minded. They hear automation and they think the robots or the high speed conveyors or whatever, the packaging machinery, and there's automation at every point of the business from start to finish that people need to be looking at, right?
And that's the key. Something that we changed about our business is we said the way we're going to coach our customers is around a process map. So we used to we used to say, okay, you do quoting here, buy paperless parts. We'll make that better. And then we realized a lot of businesses are run differently and they have their own process, their own way of thinking about it. So what we do is we build out a process map with them. So RFQ comes in. Where does it come in? Does it go to your inbox? Does it go to a portal? Does it get uploaded to your website? Okay, when that happens, is that a single point of failure? So if Jim and Jason are estimators in, world's greatest machine shop, well, Jim is working and Jason's out slacking, going on vacation, and the email from the customer goes directly to Jason, what happens? Well, if that sits in there for 3 days, the company looks bad.
Yeah.
Do you know that a lot of our customers don't know how to put out of offices on?
Wow. Yeah.
But that's like basic business best practice communication, and a lot of that stuff falls down. So we look for things like that, and we work with the shops to say every single step from that file coming in to the quote going out to the order being placed, let's map them. So I have a really funny story for you. And a lot of shops, they open up, which is really nice. So they'll tell us exactly how it goes. And we talk to each of the stakeholders. So we had this one shop and they're in Connecticut, and the guy was telling me, I was talking to one of their sales guys, and I'm like, so walk me through the process. So they would get the RFQ files in, they would print out everything, and they would put it all into different folders. And then the folders would get passed from estimator's desk to estimator's desk in kind of a linear fashion. They would each work on one portion. They were trying to optimize for their portion of that. And the sales guy starts to chuckle a little bit. And I said, well, do you think that process is bad? Or like, what's funny? Is he said, well, I got a secret I can share with you. I'm going to tell you a little trick that I use to be the best sales guy at the business. And I said, okay, well, so what do you do? And he said, so right after everybody goes home, I go into all of the stacks and I pull all of mine and I put them on top of each person's desk. So my quotes always get out before everybody else's, and my win rate's so much higher. And it was like, it blew my mind, Jim. Like, I love it. I love it. His hack for winning, but the effect that we're not prioritizing, or we don't have, the business owner has no control of that, nor any analytics to prove why or how that's happening.
Right.
Mind blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing that I always chuckle about is redaction. So our shop owners always want to redact files. They want to take their customers. They think they're competing with the world when in reality they're not, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But they will go, and in order to redact something, the vast majority of our customers will print it out, and they will either use whiteout or sticky notes, and then they will scan it back in.
Yeah.
What we said is that's ridiculous. So we built a really simple redaction tool where you can click 2 buttons and you can redact anything you want on the print. And then you can securely share that through paperless parts. So one of the things that we recognized early on is we went out and we surveyed 1,000 shop owners. This stat will blow your mind. More than 50% of them had said they had been a victim of malware in the last 24 months. So it's over 500 shops responding saying they had been hacked, malware. You know where that happens? It happens right in the RFQ phase. There's no better place for me to send you a zip file that has a bunch of executable malware right inside of it and spoof Boeing's email or spoof one of your customers' emails. It's not a hard problem. So what we said is shops they're having to go pay for secure file transfer, FTP. And the business models around FTP are terrible. They force you and the person getting it to have to take up 2 seats on your license. They were constantly having to shift seats to work with their plating companies. So we said, forget it. We built secure file sharing right into the back end of our system. We gave it for free for all of our customers.
Yeah.
And we made access to that back end, the files that are being shared, free for whoever they're sharing with those files. Because we said we got to solve a key problem here. There's a reason why foreign militaries, the aircraft carriers, the airplanes, the things that they're building look the same as ours.
Right. Yeah. I wonder why.
So yeah, it's been fun to watch the thing evolve. And that's just all pieces that float around that automation step
Right.
of
Yep.
that front office, experience.
Cool stuff. Now, did I hear you say along the way there that you're at 140 people?
Yeah, so
Holy cow. So to give context to all of you out there listening, when I talked to Jason 3 years ago, you were at 11 people. Holy crap.
yeah, tell me about it. Tell me about it.
That's amazing.
I believe that's the technical term for it. So
And you were at 50 customers, right around 50 customers. So
yeah, so we're over 400 customers.
oh
And then
man.
the size of our customers has gone up. So I mean, we have customers that range all the way from, public multi-billion-dollar corporations, and arguably that's not our sweet spot. But the vast majority of our customers now range somewhere between 5 and probably 150 million in revenue. So it's been really cool to see. And I think the thing that I love about building a cloud-based software solution that is cloud native, and this is something that I don't think our industry has fully become appreciative of yet. When you bring a robot in, you think about a Tesla. Let's put it. A lot of people know what a Tesla is.
Sure.
Let's talk in the perspective of that. That car gets faster and more efficient with software updates, and that's a crazy concept.
Yeah.
Right? How many of us have bought a car and without having to go put like a new intake on it or aftermarket accessories, the car gets faster? No, this is software. And that is like the beauty. And that's the same thing. So when I buy a new CNC machine and I drop it on the shop floor, it kind of doesn't get necessarily better with software. Maybe it does a little bit, but when you adopt a cloud native, meaning it was built for the cloud, software solution that is multi-tenant, what we do is we make paperless parts better every single week. So right now we average 2 new releases a week. Wow. We have more than 30 engineers writing code all the time. We are constantly rising the tide. So as we work with bigger and bigger customers, you would think conventional wisdom would say you leave behind all of your early adopters. But the reality of it is the rising tide carries all ships.
Yeah, you're pulling them right along.
So one of the coolest things that we released, and this is driven by our biggest customers, is we just released the ability to view and interact with PMI. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with model-based definitions in CAD. This has been around for about 20 years.
Yep.
So I think I was in high school when they wrote the standard for it, just to put it in perspective. And people still don't really use it, but it's starting to pick up. And one of the things that I think there have been a lot of very adversarial business models in manufacturing that have held our industry back. Things that are like closed ecosystems or walled gardens where they've said, in order to take advantage of this incredible functionality, our sales model will be to force everyone to have a seat of it.
Yep.
I think vertical SaaS, which is what Paperless Parts is, we're focused on a very specific vertical and we're software as a service, changes that whole model. So for me, I'm not going to go try to force someone to do something. I'm going to knock down a wall. So now instead of needing seats of CATIA or Siemens for shops to be able to interact with model-based definitions, they can do it right in Paperless Parts.
Nice. Yeah.
Just snap your finger. Now it's there. So we have shops that have saved $20,000, $30,000 on outside licenses that they no longer need because now they can interact with those files from the one customer that sends them. So I think about what Adobe did. So think of PDFs, right? We all use PDFs.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And they made it so you could open a PDF on every device, which is like this unbelievably novel concept. Well, we need that for the highest fidelity CAD to make it so that the industry and the whole supply chain plays on the same level. So one of the things that we see happening in the industrial supply chain is the fidelity of CAD and of information goes from high when it's being designed down to very low at the end of the supply chain. There's no reason for that.
Right.
That creates friction. That makes the files not computer readable. That makes it manual. That brings in a high level of analog pre-sales. It
Yep.
creates risk. And that's this concept of digital thread. But in order to have a digital thread where the file maintains the same fidelity the whole way through, we have to have the way to access that digital thread.
Yeah.
Accessibility is critical. And that's what Paperless Parts is doing. We are making it accessible to everyone.
Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome stuff. I found it just really daunting when I heard you say you're doing 2 releases every week.
Yeah.
How do you guys keep up that pace?
It's good. I mean, I think you've heard the term like innovate or die.
Yeah.
We try to live that. I think it'd be hypocritical to tell our customers that and then not live it.
Yeah, good point.
One of the things that I loved about the Navy is the op tempo. The Navy found a way to keep the operational tempo up. So if you weren't on a deployment, you were in a training cycle. If you weren't in a training cycle, you were in an upwork cycle where you were getting the ship ready for deployment.
Yeah.
There was always an evolution that you were prepping for. It could be inspections or certifications or training. Well, I think the same thing is true in business, and it's up to us as leaders to set the op tempo. So we keep a very high operational tempo at Paperless Parts because I think that's what's required to really solve pressing problems for our customers.
Yeah, good. To that end, tell me, what are your 1 or 2 biggest challenges right now?
Oh, it's a great question. I think it's probably scaling people is really challenging and organization.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, I think we have to find really good people, which I think we've been very fortunate to find amazing people.
Mhm.
One of the things that we're unwilling to compromise is people caring about this industry. I don't want to hire people that just want to come for a paycheck. I want people that know or want to know manufacturing because it aligns them with the success of our customers. And that makes it so that it kind of narrows the spectrum of people out there because we're having to do a lot of education on the fact that manufacturing is actually sexy. Like it really is.
Yeah.
I find it so interesting. And I've talked to a lot of our customers about this. Someone who's sitting behind a computer programming a robot dog to go dance around a facility. Well, they're like a rock star, and that's cool. And that shows up on YouTube, and they talk about it on the news. But someone who's programming a massive 5-axis machine to create a part in one op on tab,
right.
That's not heralded as sexy. That's just, oh yeah, they make things. Maybe we should use a 3D printer instead. I mean, honestly, that is there's a misperception of the industry. If you walked around Boston and you asked 5 people, 10 people on the street what 3D printing is, they would tell you.
Yeah.
If you ask them what CNC machining is, they wouldn't have a freaking clue.
Yeah. Or even injection molding, which has been around forever, right?
Can't even tell you what it is. They would think it's some kind of plastic surgery or something. So seriously, it's really unfortunate. And I think as a country, we got to get back to that.
Yeah,
I mean,
agreed.
I certainly hope that everyone got a nice little rude awakening during COVID when we can't produce things in the millions. Why?
Right. Yeah.
Why is it that 7 students at Georgia Tech building an injection mold for face masks make more than the entire 3D printing industry did through all of COVID? Like, it's crazy. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. But we've kind of let those skills dissipate. I'm all for a global supply chain. Like, I think that is
agreed.
Necessary. And being a country that needs to stand on its own when things go south, we need to maintain those capabilities. And that is skills, it's infrastructure, it's capital investments, it's everything that we need to do to maintain it.
Yep, agreed. I always say free trade is not a suicide pact.
That's exactly right.
Yep. Cool. So where does the company go from here? What are the big opportunities down the road?
Well, we try to keep up with demand. That's the biggest goal. So we're seeing I think it's interesting. There's this phase in the company where for us, it was very much brute force. So we were having to go out, convince people to trust us, that we were going to be in business in 2 years, that the software was going to keep getting better. It was just like, there's a very real credibility gap in manufacturing because these companies have been around for 30 years and now they're like, you're a what? A venture startup backed? What? Like, what is this thing that you're building? And can we trust you? Like, we're not going to go try to build our business around a piece of software when you might be out of business in 2 years.
Right. Yeah.
We kind of hit that point where that's not an option. Like we have enough customers, we built enough momentum, the snowball is rolling. So now
you've got the track record now.
Yeah, and I think, something that I'm really proud of is just how many case studies we have with customers. It's an ask always, and I use it as a heuristic to understand how well we're doing.
Right.
I'll say, hey, would you be willing to do a case study with you? We'd love to feature you.
Yeah.
And our customers are incredible. They get on video cam, they do video case studies, we'll do case study write-ups. We send our employees and new employees out to hang out in their shops and work and push brooms and learn the industry. So we build really good relationship there. So for us, what's next is consistently taking step changes. So we'll wrap up this year just over 500, maybe 550, right around there in customers. Next year, we should be closer to 1,200, 1,300 customers. The following year, the goal is to get to probably by the end of 2026, somewhere north of 10,000 customers.
Wow, that's awesome.
I think it's completely possible because I think that we have a really strong alignment with a problem the industry is facing, and we're solving it in a way where we're partnering with the shops rather than trying to force them into a business model that doesn't work well for them.
Yep. Yeah, I love what I'm hearing about it. And it's just so cool to have talked to you several years ago and really when you were just getting started, and to hear where you've grown it to now. I have no doubt you're going to get where you're planning on heading.
It's exciting. There's always going to be hurdles along the way. I think one of the biggest things though that drives that alignment is we stay focused on solving customer problems. So let me give you an example. One of the biggest pressing problems in job shop and contract manufacturing right now is materials.
Oh yeah.
It's huge, and you've seen it. I mean, the material price is fluctuating every 8 hours. So what we're doing is we're building partnerships right now where we integrate directly into the material providers' SAP ERP systems. We're going to make it so that live, real-time linking, so that they can see end-to-end material pricing, and we can consistently notify customers of material fluctuations in availability and pricing so that they never end up in a situation. And this always blows my mind. But our customers, they will send quotes, and maybe not our customers, but job shops will send quotes. And then they'll go, and when the PO comes in, it's almost like a separate function that's buying the metal and doing the planning, and then it goes to programming, and it's okay. But that person buying the metal doesn't know what the material price was because it was a one-string email from an estimator to Joe, the sales guy, at local distributor. Hey, I need 15 bars of X. What's the price? Oh, it's $70. Okay, well, but now it's 77. And maybe that doesn't register, but that's a 10%. That's a big number.
Oh yeah.
That eats the bottom line. And I think a lot of the customers that we have that are using paperless parts are starting to realize, because we try to string all of that communication together so we make it really clear in the shop, but they're realizing that's knocking dollars right off the bottom.
Right. Yep.
And that makes reinvestment and all that fun shop floor, sexy automation, robots and conveyors and you name it, whatever, with all the drone flying around, bringing like whatever I love toys too. Like I'm totally a gear person. I love it. My wife makes fun of me all the time. But if the bottom line's not there, you're not making investments in that gear.
Right. Yeah.
So we're going to go solve those types of problems for shops. I also don't particularly like that our industry is highly fragmented. So There's 38,000 job shops around the United States. Big number.
Yeah.
Highly fragmented. They're small businesses.
Right.
And as a product of being highly fragmented, basically because the owners kept estimating close to the vest and they weren't able to scale out of that bottleneck. But those customers get squeezed. So they get squeezed by their buyers who say, well, if you want to do work for us, we'll pay you in 90 days. And they get squeezed by their suppliers. So the supplier says, no, you get 30-day terms.
Yep.
Or you have to pay on delivery.
Yep.
Well, now what's happening is our customers are getting treated like banks.
Yeah.
And that's not right. To have a cash operating cycle of 60, 70, 80, 90 days is terrible.
Yep.
They're stuck riding working capital lines of credit from banks that are holistically evaluating their business. Now that bank looks at the business and they say, well, yeah, you've been around for a while, but there's only so much we can de-risk this. So we're going to give you this $250,000 working capital line at 6%, 7%, 11%. I've seen it gets gross. And I'm like, wow, how do you even run your business with this? Like that's a perpetual tax on everything you do.
Right.
I think we can fix that problem. So there's some cool opportunities here. I think we just have to keep doing the right thing and doing right by our customers to get there.
Well, you got some amazing ideas and you're acting on some of them. It sounds like there's more cool stuff coming. So, man, I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. We got a great team and we're lucky to have all these awesome people working on the same mission.
Well, excellent. It was absolutely marvelous having you on. I learned so much myself. I wish I had time to take notes as we were talking, but I'll have the video, so it'll be magical.
I'm really grateful for the opportunity, and if there's ever anything I can do to help you or your team, please don't hesitate.
All right, you do the same. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vanoski. Watch for new episodes dropping on the first and third Tuesdays of every month.